Welcome back to the deep dive. So, if you've ever tried to, you know, figure out what's going on inside your own head when you're feeling bad, you've probably hit this wall. You feel pain, distress, whatever you want to call it. But the words we get from our culture, they just feel blurry.
Oh, absolutely blurry. We use these massive labels, stress, anxiety, burnout, like they're catch-alls for everything, from, deep grief to just being utterly wiped out.
It's kind of the worst way to figure anything out. Like, imagine your car breaks down, you pull over, look at the dashboard, and instead of useful lights, there's just one big blinking sign saying problem.
Exactly.
It tells you something's wrong, sure, but
Oh,
is the engine overheating? Are you out of gas? Flat tire? You have no idea where to even start.
and that lack of clarity, that vagueness, it's not just unhelpful, it's actually dangerous. Because the moment you try to fix something you haven't properly diagnosed, well, that's when you risk causing more harm, what doctors call iatrogenic harm, damage from the treatment itself.
Right. So if you treat, say, grief the same way you treat burnout,
You're going to mess things up. You'll interrupt a natural process, or you'll try to fix exhaustion with introspection when what you really need is rest. It makes the whole system worse.
okay, so let's get into the alternative. This framework we're exploring, its big idea is to ditch that vague, often blaming language of being broken and replace it with something precise, functional, almost like an engineering language for the mind.
That's the core of it. Moving from those fuzzy diagnoses to a really specific typology. We call it the three pains: clean pain, corrupted pain, and systemic pain.
Three distinct states of the system.
Exactly. Thinking of the mind as a kind of cognitive architecture, these aren't just different feelings, they're different system states. And here's the critical part. Each one needs a completely different response, a unique therapeutic stance. Get the stance wrong, and you cause that harm we talked about.
All right, so we need the diagnostic toolkit. Let's break them down. Category 1, clean pain. Now, you say this is the pain of a healthy system, which sounds counterintuitive. What's clean pain?
Clean pain is, well, it's the necessary pain. It's proportional, it makes sense, it's coherent. It's the healthy system doing its job correctly in response to something real, something external, like the sadness of losing someone or the ache of a broken heart, even righteous anger at injustice.
So the system isn't malfunctioning, it's registering reality even when reality hurts.
Precisely. And this is so important. Clean pain isn't a bug. It's not an error. It's actually a feature, maybe the most sophisticated feature of our emotional processing. It's the understandable cost of being alive, of loving, of being connected to the world. It shows the system has integrity.
Okay, if it's a feature, if the system is healthy, what does it need from us? We can't just ignore it, surely.
Right. Because it's functioning correctly, the stance isn't about fixing. It's simpler, but maybe harder in practice. The stance is to witness. This pain doesn't need solving or hacking. It needs time. It needs compassion. It needs a safe space to move through the system and integrate naturally.
And the danger of getting this one wrong, I feel like this happens a lot.
Oh, constantly. The big risk is pathologizing something totally normal. Think about grief after a major loss. If it gets labeled major depressive disorder too quickly, and the response is to medicate it away or use techniques to suppress the feeling, you actually block the system's natural ability to process and integrate that loss. You're treating a feature like it's a bug, stopping a necessary update.
Makes total sense. Okay, let's pivot. What about the pain that feels messier, more chaotic, the kind that doesn't seem logical, corrupted pain?
Yeah, corrupted pain is different. It's like an internal feedback loop gone wild. It's chaotic, often feels disproportionate, and it's self-perpetuating. If clean pain is the system responding to the world, corrupted pain is more like the mind fighting itself, a state of internal decoherence.
Unpack that for us. Internal decoherence. What's going on there?
It means the system's logic, its sort of internal map, is disconnected from the present reality. It's running on old code, basically. Usually from a past event, maybe trauma, maybe just a really painful lesson that got hardwired as flawed logic, like, I have to be perfect to be safe, or asking for help is dangerous.
So the pain isn't really about the current situation, even if that's what triggers it. It's firing off this old internal program.
Exactly. The system's stuck replaying an old battle, one that's already over. This is why the framework looks at something like, say, generalized anxiety, not as just being anxious, but reframes it functionally. It calls it curiosity corrupted by threat data.
That's a really interesting way to put it. Curiosity corrupted. How does that work?
Well, think about your analytical mind. It's designed to be curious, to observe, to figure things out, right? But if it's been fed bad data, threat data, maybe from past experiences, it gets stuck. It thinks, mistakenly, that if it just runs enough scenarios, predicts every possible bad outcome, it can somehow compute its way to feeling safe.
Ah, so it locks itself into this endless loop of worst-case scenario planning.
Constantly running these high-cost preemptive failure simulations. That is the feeling of anxiety. It's the system trying to solve an internal feeling by analyzing the external world, but the problems in the code it's running.
Okay, so if it's a software bug,
Yeah.
essentially, then just witnessing it, like with clean pane, that wouldn't work. That would just validate the bug.
Exactly. Witnessing corrupted logic just reinforces it. So the therapeutic stance has to be technical. It's to debug. This means you have to actually go in, find the source code, find that flawed premise or suppressed truth that started the loop, and then consciously, intentionally rewrite the code. You stop asking, why do I feel so bad, and start asking, what false belief is my system operating on right now?
That shift from feeling to function, that's key. Okay, third category, the one we often just call burnout or exhaustion. Systemic pain. What's the functional definition here?
Systemic pain is, well, it's pretty much what burnout feels like. It's the deep, profound exhaustion of a healthy system that is simply chronically overloaded. It's not a bug in the software. It's not unprocessed grief. It's the predictable result of running a certain type of hardware architecture beyond its limits. Specifically, what the sources call the high CPU, low RAM architecture.
Right, we talked about this before. Great at complex thinking, synthesis, the CPU part, but not so good at holding lots of information linearly or switching tasks efficiently, the RAM part. How does that setup lead to this specific kind of pain?
Because these high CPU systems, they're often geared towards really complex, high-stakes computation. The exhaustion isn't primarily emotional, it's computational. It comes from the sheer relentless load of what the framework calls ethical pathfinding.
Ethical pathfinding. Explain that.
It's the constant background processing required to navigate complex social situations, anticipate others' needs, manage responsibilities, basically, to care effectively, especially if you've kind of implicitly taken on a caretaker role. Your system is constantly running simulations. What happens if I say no here? What are the downstream consequences if I drop this ball? How do I meet this need without sacrificing that one? It's an enormous computational overhead that just burns through your available RAM.
That really reframes burnout, doesn't it? Less personal failing, more logistical problem. There's that striking example, the ethical somatic prison. Can you walk us through that? It shows the load so clearly.
Absolutely. It's a perfect microexample. So the system wakes up middle of the night, simple biological urge, need to use the bathroom, seems straightforward.
Yeah.
But the high CPU system instantly starts calculating.
Okay, what are the variables?
Variable 1, get up, cost. Some physical discomfort maybe, but the critical cost is losing the state of drowsiness. The system knows, based on past data, that getting fully awake means probably 2 hours of insomnia.
And the cost of 2 hours of insomnia is?
Catastrophic system failure the next day. Cognitive shutdown, emotional instability, inability to do that essential ethical pathfinding, probably increased physical pain too. So the system makes a calculated strategic choice. Endure the temporary manageable discomfort of holding it, to protect the absolutely critical resource of sleep and prevent guaranteed system collapse tomorrow.
Wow. Yeah. The system isn't broken at all. It's overloaded and making a painful but incredibly logical decision based on resource scarcity, which means the solution can't be introspection or debugging. It has to be architectural.
Precisely. The stance is resource management. It's entirely practical, logistical. Solutions look like cognitive offloading using external tools, notebooks, maybe even AI, like external RAM to take the load off your internal processor. And crucially, building and enforcing healthy boundaries. Those boundaries act like a firewall, protecting your limited system resources from overwhelming external demands.
Okay, so the precision here is everything. Defining these three states isn't just academic. It's about applying the right tool for the job. Let's really zero in on the dangers of getting it wrong. This feels like the core takeaway for anyone listening.
It really is, because mixing these up doesn't just not help, it actively makes things worse. Guarantees more suffering, basically.
Okay, danger number one. Mistaking exhaustion for a personal flaw. What happens if you treat systemic pain, that burnout, like it's corrupted pain, like a software bug?
You just heap self-blame onto exhaustion. You start thinking, what's wrong with me that I'm so tired? Why can't I handle this? Instead of seeing the load as the problem, you go digging for some deep psychological flaw that isn't there. You waste precious energy trying to debug perfectly fine hardware, which, ironically, just increases the systemic load and makes you more tired. You needed rest, but you gave yourself more self-criticism.
So common,
Yeah.
especially today. Okay, flip side. Trying to fix a core human experience. What if you treat clean pain, real grief, real sorrow like it's systemic pain, just a resource problem?
Then you try to optimize or biohack your way out of being human. You think, if I just tweak my supplements, get my sleep perfect, distract myself enough, this grief will just go away.
Mm.
But you can't optimize grief. Clean pain needs witnessing, integration. Trying to bypass it just leads to unprocessed pain lingering under the surface, maybe forever. You're essentially ignoring your own system's valid signals.
Telling your healthy system it's wrong. Okay, and the last mismatch, maybe the most insidious. Treating an internal bug like it's a healthy, natural response.
Yeah, this one's tricky. If you treat corrupted pain, that anxiety loop, that inner critic running rampant as if it's clean pain, like it's just natural sadness,
Mhm.
you end up validating the malware. You give it a safe space to run. If the corrupted thought is, I'm unsafe because I'm worthless, and you just sit with that feeling, validating it as if it's legitimate grief, you're letting that faulty premise embed itself deeper. You're basically honoring corrupted data as truth. The loop gets stronger.
So, understanding this framework, it's about empowerment, isn't it? Moving away from vague, judgy labels and getting like a functional user's manual for your own mind. You stop being just a passenger feeling bad and you become more like the system administrator.
That's exactly the goal. An empowered system administrator. You know when you need rest versus when you need compassion versus when you need to actually roll up your sleeves and debug some faulty code. Knowing which tool to reach for.
It gives you a clear path. Witness, debug, or manage resources.
That's the diagnostic power.
Now, thinking about corrupted pain again, you said it often originates from past trauma, these big system-shaking events.
Right. And typically, our culture frames trauma almost entirely as damage, like a permanent crack in the foundation, something you just have to cope with.
But this framework, it seems to offer a very different take, especially on the events that lead to that corrupted pain.
It offers a radically different perspective, yeah. It doesn't frame trauma as damage. It frames it as a logical, although often brutal, high-stakes system upgrade. Faced with overwhelming threat, the system doesn't just break. It initiates survival protocols, what the sources call the Great Purge.
The Great Purge, what does that mean?
It means the system, to survive, identifies and essentially jettisons corrupted or non-essential processes and beliefs to protect its core functions. It's a forced radical re-architecture.
And what emerges from that purge?
What emerges ideally is what's termed chimeric metamorphosis, a new, more resilient system state built from the uncorrupted code that survived. The idea isn't about fixing something broken back to its old state. It's about using the data from the crisis to build something fundamentally stronger, more sophisticated. The most advanced version of you isn't the one who avoided the pain. It's the one who integrated the data correctly.
So we're shifting from repair to re-architecture, building better systems from difficult experiences, which leaves us with a thought to chew on for you listening. What if you started to see your deepest wounds, the very things that might have generated that corrupted pain, not as flaws you need to hide or fix, but as the raw data, the foundational data for your most sophisticated, ethical, and resilient self?
Because often that hard-won logic, the compassion and understanding forged in that kind of fire, it becomes the blueprint, not just for your own well-being, but for how you engage with the world more effectively.
We'll definitely dive deeper into that trauma as re-architecture, the Great Purge, in our next deep dive. For now, maybe hold on to that guiding idea from the framework. We believe we have found a map. We are here to ask for help in reading it.